would you say it's important for patients to be involved in research? Go ahead, Carrie.
Okay, so I think that, one of the things, especially in the rare disease space, but pretty much in, so many of these, autoimmune, autoinflammatory conditions, there's so much that we don't know. And we don't have really good treatments, or it takes us years to get diagnosed because there is so much we don't know. And the only way we will ever know is by having these, whether it's surveys or clinical trials or, all different ways of researching the people who have the conditions and the things that we do about it and for it and with it. That's the only way we're ever going to be able to learn enough to do better. And we all deserve better.
Absolutely. Eileen?
I can think of so many reasons why it's important for us to get involved in studies. For one, recruitment is difficult for researchers. So the more of us get involved, the stronger their research is, and the more findings that they'll find, the more relevant it will be to patients as well. And it helps advance our care and the future of our care for people that are involved. And it can also, you can learn so many things participating in research as a participant sometimes, because even if it's not in a survey, you can have hands-on experiences with some studies and learn so much along with the researchers.
Deb, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. As far as this goes, it just branches off so beautifully as far as that goes. Because again, I've done so many surveys. I've had this disease for over 40 years. And, the focus groups that there are, Forward Data Bank. I'm always getting their data banks that have, or their surveys. And usually it's over the phone. That's the way I choose to do it, and update all of my information every 6 months. Because if they didn't have, like, what I really liked about what you said, Eileen, is it makes, if more people participate in these studies, it makes the data that much more robust. And there are so many different things that can kind of play off of that. So I have different experiences than Eileen. I have different experiences than Tiffany. I have different experiences than Carrie. So we're adding more information to that. So it just makes the data that much more robust. Because if you only have 20 participants, it just shows a small little dot on a map as far as what that actual research did. If you have 2,000 people, that just makes it so much more robust. So I could go on and on.
And that's what the 360 is for. So we can break off to as many conversations and examples and topics as we'd like. But in circling back to a little bit of what almost all of you sort of said here, want to take that opportunity to explore that a little further. So one of the things, and we have outlines that we're looking at, but sometimes something's said and it didn't make the outline. And one of the things you just said, Deb, it's relevant. It's going to tie back to some things that are on these bullet points here that we wanted to mention, and that is precision medicine. And we started by saying clinical trials, or these research that have the phases, and they invite usually that general patient population. And we're, again, going to dive in a little bit more to that here, and why it's important for as many people to have a voice and be part of research as possible, because we don't tip all the boxes. That is just the fact. And that's why, for those of you who use, for example, biologics or these pharmaceutical drugs, once they get to market, it's typically only about 40% that do well. And the reason why is because the people included in the trials are general patient population. And honestly, most of us are what we would say is atypical, because we have comorbidities, we have complex, non-tick the box type of presentation. So when you mentioned the 20,000, Deb, I think something that's really really good to think about too is as the studies move forward and we're in this world where we're getting into precision medicine, which is studies of your biomarkers, your blood, your tissues, your DNA signatures, and how that is going to tie into matching you, not only to help with diagnosis, but matching you with the right treatments at the right time for the right person. And in that respect, those trials are going to get smaller. So and they're going to need comorbidities, and they're going to need subgroups. And that's why we really also want to mention this today. If you haven't been able to be in a trial in the past, that does not mean that you won't be able to in the future, because we might be needing to study more groups of 2,000 or 1,000 or 500 to start to connect the dots of why is this group responding to this therapy better than this one? There might be something to do with our genetics or our biological makeup, so to speak. So let's turn this over. I want, Carrie, you mentioned a few things when we were going over kind of our pre-discussion here on just that there are different types of people, there are different subgroups, there are different types of trials. So could you just go in a little bit more about sort of the comorbidities and the inclusion and the exclusion, and just a little bit more about the importance of these subgroups and, as you like to say, autoimmune soup?
Yes, that's autoimmune soup is like my favorite expression, my favorite description of this. My rheumatologist said that's what she was diagnosing me with, and I just absolutely love it. But I mean, I think this really kind of feeds off of what you were just saying, Tiffany, with us being the atypical presentation, and usually when they're doing research, conducting a trial, whatever the case may be, they have the certain criteria. They want people with this diagnosis and without these problems. And most of us then can't participate because we have these problems. And so so if all of us, or most of us have these other comorbidities, like I said, I have sarcoidosis, but I also have RA, and I also have Sjogren's syndrome, and I also have fibromyalgia, and I also have chronic migraine, and I also have endometriosis, and I also have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and the list can go on. We sometimes say, all right, do we want the list alphabetically or head to toe or chronologically, because there are so many. And when so many of us are atypical, and not that you can see me, but I'm giving finger quotes as I say atypical. If so many of us, if the majority of us have these comorbidities, the atypical really is typical. And so if we are not participating in this research, we are not the ones being studied, then who's left? And there's nobody left to really participate, and there's nobody left to learn from. And on the flip side, here we all are, typical in our atypicalness, and we're the ones that they really do need to study. We're the ones that they need to see, how does this medication, how does that treatment, how does this procedure affect someone with X diagnosis and Y diagnosis and double Z on the side. That's what we need to learn. And that's where we're falling through the cracks. And that's where we need to make the biggest change.